Welcome back to the world of cinematics, specifically Pitch Stop, where I get to rant about what I would like to see in a Red Hood movie. So, let me just begin by saying that Red Hood is pretty much unexplored. In the DC universe, there's been a lot of iterations, and because of that, I'm going to take quite a few liberties here, as well as try to tie in everything that's been established in the previous videos. So we begin with Red Hood, Jason Todd, sleeping. And as he sleeps, he's fidgeting around in his bed, and he's seeing in his dream two red eyes that are aflame and causing him great unease. As he's thrashing about in his bed, he hears a voice saying, "Bloodbat, bloodbat, bloodbat." He then opens his eyes and gives off a yell as he throws a hidden batarang from behind him and almost hits a unknown person with green eyes. As the camera zooms in, and we realize that it's Starfire, and we find out that Jason Todd has been with Starfire for a while since his last encounter with the Batman. And they're currently living on an island in the middle of the Caribbean, hiding away from both the Titans and Batman. Starfire specifically is hiding from the Titans because she has recently broken up with Dick Grayson, and has also been banished from her home world by her sister, who at the time was working for Darkseid, and we'll kind of lean into that a little bit more as the story develops. But these dreams that Jason Todd is having have been continually entering his mind. Meanwhile, in Gotham City, in the sewers of Gotham specifically, a kingdom has been constructed by someone that you want to think would do it, but it was Killer Croc, who is now known as King Croc, and one of his best men, Arsenal, also known as Speedy, for those who are fans of Arrow, has just discovered a strange couple that has been completely drained of blood. And he's investigating their death, and the only thing he can find on them is a pendant of an owl on the woman's dress. So as he's investigating that, he comes close to realizing that maybe there's a secret society within Gotham City that could be causing these problems. Meanwhile, as Jason Todd is practicing his martial arts against Starfire, it's kind of a cool little matchup as they fight, more of a sparring session than anything else. He has another attack, but this time it's not just a dream, because as he's lying on the ground thrashing about, Bruce Wayne enters into his mind. Except it's not the Bruce Wayne he knows. It's another Bruce Wayne, an older, more deadlier Bruce Wayne. And as he wakes up, he finds himself standing in front of an open fire out on the island. Starfire is running up to him and says, "Yeah, where have you been? It's been so long." She looks down at his chest and she's, "What did you do to your chest?" And he looks down, and branded on him is a brand new red bat insignia, similar to Batman's, but because it was burned on as a brand, it wasn't done very well done, and it's now scarring. And so he decides, along with Starfire, that they need to get some answers. And so, incognito, they meet with Raven, the only witch that Starfire knows. And through Raven, we learn that the dreams that Jason Todd has been having has been connected to another dimension. They're not sure which, but it is definitely a demon or god of some sort. Meanwhile, Arsenal has begun his investigations into this cult that he's discovered, which appears to be a court of owls of some sort. But, much to his surprise, it isn't the Court of Owls that he's first hypothesized, but it's another cult that believes in Barbathos. Well, which, if you remember, if you've listened to the Flash pitch by Jed, was only hinted at towards the end. And so as he's taken on this cult, he's suddenly taken out by this new original character known as Bloodbat, which wears a very similar style of Batman, but with a red hood design as well. And he gets captured. And as that is going on, Jason and Starfire get kidnapped as well. Well, almost kidnapped. It was attempted. And it reveals that this Barbathos has been trying to get in contact with Jason Todd for a while now, ever since he came back to life via the Lazarus Pit. And as they're allowing themselves to be captured, because they discover the only way they're going to find these guys, especially since they appear to be using some sort of magic, they allow themselves to be captured, and that's when they eventually meet up with Arsenal. But because they allowed themselves to be captured, Jason Todd is again confronted by this other Bruce Wayne. And this other Bruce Wayne keeps entering into his mind and telling him he's not worthy enough, he's not good enough, and that he was glad he let him die, and all these terrible things. Meanwhile, Arsenal and Starfire were killed off, but thankfully they managed to escape thanks to Arsenal's boots, and they make their way back to try to stop this cult. In the meantime, Jason has been kind of on this mind journey, and he's kind of fighting against that mentally. He wakes up and he's able to fend it off this psychic attack, and then he's approached by Bloodbat, and they have a fight, and it seems that everything that Jason tries to do, this Bloodbat's able to do even better. And as they fight, he realizes that this Bloodbat character is very, similar fighting skills, and he manages to pull off this one move that he knew that he learned from Ra's al Ghul. And this other Bloodbat character didn't seem to know this particular move, and he was able to knock him to the ground. And as he removes the mask, he discovers that it is, in fact, another Jason Todd from this parallel dimension. And this alternate Jason tells him, hey, if you do this, we can become the new Batman. We can receive all the glory, and we can rid of all the injustices in the world. Meanwhile, Starfire and Arsenal start to discover that they kind of have an attraction towards each other as they lay to waste all these different characters, all these different henchmen, this cult, and as they kind of poke fun at each other and their abilities, and how kind of silly it is that he's still using a bow and arrow, but how silly it is that, she has to think happy thoughts to fly. And she's like, how did you know that? And he says, well, Dick posts didn't realize when the internet first came out that tweets were read by everyone. He thought it was just a personal journal. And so everything that was intimate and secret about the relationship, and specifically about Starfire, is posted out there. And so that kind of gets them going. And they finally are able to make their way to Jason, who appears to be allowing Barbathos to come through his chest as a sacrifice. But they then realize, as the hand of Barbathos is coming through his chest, exiting out of it, Red Hood kind of gives up this kind of evil grin, and then he kicks Bloodbat's gun from his hand and shoots the hand, and the hand quivers, and you hear this demonic scream as the hand comes back into the chest, and he picks up his hood, puts it on, and they manage to fight off this cult. And they're at the end. Bloodbat demands that Red Hood kills him, and Red Hood has a moment to think about it, and Bloodbat is tormenting him. And he says, if I live, I'll come down to hunt you and everyone you love. And there's kind of a zoom tracking shot, zoom in into his face, and he's got the gun, and he's pointing it at his head, and then suddenly an arrow comes and hits him in the chest, and he turns around and he kind of sighs and says, Arsenal, and Arsenal's like, what? He was going to kill everybody that you love, and that might include me. And so with that, they kind of realized, we work pretty good as a team, and, we might not be a Justice League. We're more of outlaws because, we do whatever we want, and Jason kind of likes that, and so they decide to call themselves the Outlaws. And as they leave, a piece of the blood of Barbatos that Red Hood had shot begins to quiver, and it begins to expand and stretch and turns into this little bat and kind of flutters away. And you can hear the other Batman mentioned from Jed's Flash video kind of maniacally laughing, and maybe something like the words of "we've broken through" resonates there. And that's how I would introduce Red Hood and the Outlaws. And so the sequel to it would just be the Outlaws. And I think it would be a pretty fun video, or fun movie in general. It would allow a little more building up of the Gotham mythology with, a little bit of introductions to the Court of Owls, as well as Killer Croc, and just showing that he's not just a brute force, especially in the New 52. Like I said, he becomes known as King Croc because he begins to take refugees and homeless people into the sewer and starts taking care of them. Arsenal was one of those people trying to escape Green Arrow, because Green Arrow in that timeline had become pretty much a jerk, and he was tired of all the lies. And Starfire would just be a nice addition, because one, she is one of the original founding members, and two, it'd be nice to see a rendition of her that doesn't have to be part of the Titan show. So it'd be definitely a different cast. I don't have too much in mind of who would play what. I do like the idea of continuing Pattinson as playing Red Hood in this iteration. I know he's probably too old, but Armie Hammer would be probably good as Arsenal. And for Starfire, I don't honestly know. I could see any actress doing this. Self-evidently, she's usually an attractive, curvaceous woman. I would prefer if she were more modest, because I think there's more to a superhero than just their looks. And it'd be kind of fun to see her as the perky version, much like the Teen Titans TV show. And with Arsenal, he'd be more of the comedic character, because he'd be making sarcastic remarks. And Red Hood would, for the most part, be the straight man, because he is Batman's adopted son, and he's gone through a lot of stuff. So that is my pitch, and now we will discuss it. Thank you. So we're going to be discussing Red Hood and the Outlaws, because, that's what I did.
Yeah, Aaron, what's your thoughts on this?
What's my thoughts? Well, my thoughts are, I remembered during the recording, so we're going to have a different recording than the one these guys listened to, but I'm going to keep it basically the same. But an after credit scene that I thought of, because I did mention Starfire's sister, but I didn't include the story aspect. So an after credit scene would show her leading the forces of Darkseid along with her own on Mongol's planet, kind of building up where Stephan's Superman story ended, and then the conversation between her and Darkseid as they plan to send their forces to Earth, and that's kind of where it leads off.
Very cool.
That would be a really cool way to see kind of how it would merge into a final Justice League movie.
Right.
Which is the end goal here. I think that's the next pitch that we're headed towards.
I think so, yeah.
I really liked how with Robert's pitch, you kind of got to see the grittier side of Red Hood that he was initially introduced with. And then I like how now with this Red Hood and the Outlaws pitch, you kind of get to see, how while initially he was kind of that like really violent, gritty loner character, kind of DC's Punisher. Now he's still gritty and violent and all that stuff, but he has a great team dynamic that he's got going on with Starfire and Arsenal. And while, yes, they do tackle, criminals, drug dealers, that sort of thing, they also will fight aliens or magic users, kind of the more colorful, wacky side of DC. You can kind of explore that whole spectrum with a character like Red Hood. You brought in a lot of those elements, and it worked in really, really well.
Oh gosh, thank you.
And I really like all the characters you brought in too. That was kind of cool, and how you get to see. I've never seen that. Was it Red Hood mixed with Batman? Look, that picture you showed with the whole group of them. That it took me a second when I was listening. I'm like, hey, that's actually a really cool costume. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And I try to introduce a new antagonist. Just because, like I said, if you look at the history of Red Hood and the Outlaws, it's in the New 52, which ran for quite a bit, but they rebooted it with Rebirth and they changed the characters. They have now Bizarro and Artemis, and I was just like, I mean, that's okay, but Red Hood with Starfire and Speedy, now Arsenal, I found that way more intriguing.
Yeah.
And giving them a character such as Bloodbat with Barbatos as kind of the guy behind the scenes, that Thanos type character that was introduced in The Flash. I thought that was a good idea just because that way we can introduce, it's not just Darkseid, which is a good overall villain, but for kind of the mystical side, he's not really that type of character.
No. Yeah, he's like this alien, godlike conqueror figure. And when it comes to magic, mysticism, or the mythological side of DC, there aren't a whole lot of big people. You could do you could do Trigon, and I mean that's about it. So this character of Barbados still kind of allows you to do a similar Thanos or Darkseid like storyline, but does allow you to do that with just about every one of the characters being able to link in. If they were to use Trigon, it'd just be hey Raven, Zatanna, Dr. Fate, help please.
Yeah, or just Teen Titans,
right?
That's one of their big villains, and he's a serious villain to deal with for sure. But if you want to add kind of that mystical side, but include not just Batman, which I think would be a great idea, just because it's just an alternate reality. I mean, if you wanted to introduce Ultraman into the mix, maybe a Bat version of him or something. There's just so many options there.
Right. I also like how you used Killer Croc or King Croc a lot better than Suicide Squad did. I like the idea that he's escaped from U.S. custody somehow, and we don't really have to know how. Just he's out, and he's kind of he's still. That the line from Wreck-It Ralph. He's a bad guy, but that does not mean he is a bad guy. He's still, a vicious monster in a lot of ways, but he's grown both physically and as a person. He's, got a different side of him that we don't always get to see. So I thought that was a really interesting idea to show in a movie. Lets some depth to the character.
Did you have any thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah. Originally, I was going to say that it's not very often that you run into something that's so monumentally sucks so badly. But I found out that everything that I say will apparently be made into a T-shirt, or may be made into a T-shirt. So I thought about revising that statement.
Too late.
You know,
It's going to become a shirt now.
I was impressed that Aaron was able to incorporate more of the female characters in DC. Because I myself am notoriously bad at not, because I don't really think about that very often. But he's able to incorporate Starfire. I got scared for a second during the pitch. I thought, oh no, is he going to make Jason Todd and Starfire a thing? Because, she likes Nightwing, but not Jason Todd. Luckily,
Very different.
Luckily, it's Red Hood and the Outlaws, not Red Hood and the In-Laws.
Yes.
That made me happy, but that's a perfect parody of this. Overall, I enjoyed hearing the connections to everything because it is technically a shared universe, and I enjoyed the darker side, because usually we think, oh well, Red Hood's the dark side of Robin, and it's true, but the dark side to him is the Bloodbat. I just thought that was interesting, and I wasn't sure who Bloodbat was. I assume that's his symbol, because it's a red bat, but it was cool that it's a totally different character and it's somebody who can challenge him. Jed and I were talking afterwards about who we could potentially cast.
Do we want to do, just Robert Pattinson playing against Robert Pattinson? Do we want to cast someone else who's like an alternate dimension version of Jason Todd, who maybe looks very similar to Robert Pattinson, like maybe an Aaron Taylor Johnson?
That could work, yeah.
There's a lot of different things you could do with it. One idea that we had for Starfire that I really liked was Rose Leslie. She plays Ygritte in Game of Thrones. That's her biggest known role, and something that she has a lot of character traits in that are very similar to Starfire. She's very strong and very stubborn, very driven, but also displays a lot of character traits of innocence at times. Like when she's traipsing around in a settled area for the first time in her life, she's heard stories of like these giant castles and big old homes that are enormous, and she sees a windmill, and she's like, oh my gosh, is that a castle? Because this is the biggest building she's ever seen in her life. And she's told, no, that's a farmer uses that. Doesn't even live there. That's just like a building that a farmer has. Like, you'd think that a castle would be able to touch the clouds, it'd be so big. And she's kind of standoffish. Well, look at you with your my home touches the clouds. But, I think that'd be a really good way to portray Starfire, because she is very innocent, but also very strong, very compassionate, all these different things. And I think that Rose Leslie could bring that to the role. And she also happens to be the same age as Robert Pattinson, so it kind of worked well. Maybe I was thinking for Arsenal, you suggested, maybe an Armie Hammer type, maybe a Garrett Hedlund.
Okay.
He was Murtaugh in Aragon. He was the main character in Tron Legacy. I think he could really nail that Arsenal role.
I think so too, and just on the body type, and just to hopefully I don't make the same mistakes. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but in the original pitch, I said that it was Nightwing that made the mistake of thinking Twitter was a journal. Scratch that. That is very much a Starfire thing to do. She's the one posting stuff,
right?
And she just didn't realize, and maybe we can make it in the lore of her planet. A bird means journal. So Twitter, she thinks it's a journal.
Okay,
so
that makes more sense, because when I heard that, I'm like, he should already know that.
He has a back cave with a back computer. So no,
he's been around Batman for how long?
I also the reason I created the Bloodbat character was because I wanted to show what Red Hood could potentially become. Because at the end of Under the Red Hood and some other variations of that story, he does remain just kind of evil. He doesn't ever become the anti-hero that I would like to see him as. So just be able, with the introduction of other dimensions, different versions of Batman and all those characters, I thought, well, what if Red Hood killed Bruce Wayne in another dimension? And, he kept the Crimson Cowl on him, but instead of, becoming Red Bat, that it could work, but, blood sounds a lot cooler, so.
Plus, he is more violent, so.
Yeah, and he's more violent,
Yeah.
so that makes a lot more sense. But yeah, he's an original character. As far as Arsenal and Starfire developing a relationship, that is in the comics.
Mhm.
I can't take credit for that. But yeah, those are kind of the reasons I made those decisions. Not that I'm defending, I'm just explaining for you guys.
I was kind of surprised by the amount of comedy that you had in it. Not that I'm complaining. I thought that you balanced it really well. I think a director that would be able to kind of balance that very careful tone of comedy, but also lots of really dark, violent, gritty stuff, and kind of grounded and realistic, kind of wacky and weird. I think the perfect director for that would be Adam Wingard. The biggest movie he's directed is Godzilla vs. Kong, which is coming out here pretty soon, and it's getting great reviews, and so I'm very excited to see it. But I think back to his movie The Guest, where he does kind of balance that, like moments of this very unique, dark humor, but also not having it feel like it's forced in. Like there's a moment where people are being shot at, and this guy who has this dark secret you don't ever learn, and he's been staying with this nice woman, like, I'm afraid I haven't been entirely truthful with you, and he's about to tell his entire backstory, then more gunfire. We don't have time to tell you. Or, he gets stabbed at the end by this kid who he's kind of been mentoring, and instead of saying, like, oh, how could you, I trusted you, you betrayed me, is like, good job, kid. This is exactly what I taught you to do, as he's, like, dying of, blood loss. So I think that, and plus he has great action skills as a director that, we're apparently going to see in Godzilla vs. Kong, and we already saw in The Guest. So I think he'd be a really good pick for this sort of movie.
No, he sounds like it. I'm not very good at picking directors, but from what I've heard about The Guest and what I've seen in the Godzilla vs. Kong, that could be a potentially good director. I wouldn't mind. I've been loving what Jon Favreau's been doing lately with Mandalorian, so and he's just pretty good in general. So I would also pitch him as well.
Yeah, he could do a good job with this.
Yeah, because he can go gory, but he doesn't have to.
Right.
Not that I want this to be gory, but
right. This could be a hard PG-13 and be perfectly fine.
Yeah. I know, what was that, Stephen?
For some reason, Robert Rodriguez came to my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
That could be good.
Yeah.
Because he did Spy Kids. It's weird. So.
Yeah, he's done Sin City, he's done Spy Kids, and he's done everything in between.
Yeah, so he just has to find that fine line between PG and R and
Right.
go for that.
Because, I mean, if you watch Alita Battle Angel and then say, hey, the guy who made this is going to be making Red Hood and the Outlaws movie, I'd be down.
Absolutely. No, that's a good suggestion, too. Just because there's bits of good humor, but there's also good emotional, which is something I would like to see. And then, of course, the humor. And I would
very violent, while still staying PG-13.
Right, very violent, absolutely. And I would love to see how he direct Arsenal shooting a blood in the chest, because that could be really funny potentially. Which is what I had in mind. I mean, it's basically ripped off from the Star Wars Clone Wars episode,
right?
But it's a great scene.
It is.
I got nothing. Well, actually, wait, hon. I do got to say this. I did appreciate the idea of, you said it earlier, him becoming an anti-hero. And I feel like you did it really well because you pulled out someone who is way worse to deal with. Right. And that kind of counters what Red Hood did previously. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe Red Hood isn't that bad of a guy. So that's my tidbit.
I agree. something that I noticed from Aaron and I's our pitches is that there is that potential for the main character to be that evil, and we've seen that with Superman, we've seen that with Red Hood. But I think Aaron and I, we recognize that that's an interesting idea, but we like to push the character back to being a good guy, right? So that's why my Superman pitch was that way. I was like, yeah, that could happen, but if he saw that happen, kind of like there's a great Clone Wars episode where Anakin Skywalker sees that he could become Darth Vader, and so he pushes away from that and tries to do the best that he can do with what he does know. And it's sort of like, well, what would have happened if he had known all these terrible things would happen? And I was like, well, what would Superman do if he knew about the nightmare scene? Mm-hmm. And it's the same with Red Hood. What would he do if he's basically looked in the mirror and said, there's something wrong about the way I do things. I need to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why Barbatos, when he does appear to Red Hood, it's Bruce Wayne. Because he doesn't hate the idea of Batman. In fact, he's all for it. But he hates the man behind the cowl. And to have that man telling him that he's worthless, that he can't ever be good or do good, all these lies. And then for him to come out of it, and smile and initially say, no, I'm not going to fall for it. You're not my heart. I get to make my own decisions. And then shoot Barbatos' hand. I just love that imagery of, you did have control over my heart at one point, but I get to make my own decisions.
Right.
It just goes to show how stubborn Jason Todd is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Which adds more to his character.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if I had to choose a successor to Batman, I love Nightwing, but Jason Todd is where it's at for me. I love him as a successor to Batman.
And I feel like once he goes through all that stuff, he would make a great successor. When he first starts off,
no, he's not ready.
But that's because he, like, kind of our last episode, the episode 14, Falcon Winter Soldier, he had to earn the title.
Right.
He would have to earn the title of Batman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think you set that up great. So,
I've got nothing else unless you have questions, but I think I covered all the things.
You covered quite a bit. And Stefan and Jed got the cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I aren't very good at that part.
No, I can give you a story and how to do it with a camera.
Yeah.
That's about what I can do.
You're good at that.
Yeah, you are.
And then, Aaron, you got your research, which is incredible. Jed just knows everything. He's Wikipedia for movies. And then Jed just can see it from a director's point of view. So, we all have our strengths. I have many weaknesses. But that's why I have you guys, so I don't have to work on my weaknesses.
Right.
Except Aaron. Aaron's just a pretty face. He's just a pretty face here.
You know it. Bet most views.
Yep. Which, go check out Muggling with Vernon. It's on our YouTube channel. Since we're closing, we might as well do it, right, guys?
Right.
We got to do it.
Episode 3 coming soon.
Ooh.
Very exciting.
That is exciting. So, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can find out when Aaron releases that next video. And also, I got the shirt. Buy now. You see, look, get really close. Yep, see it. So originally supposed to be across the whole chest. Something messed up when I was doing it in Teespring. So, and to make it even worse, that's supposed to be the Anchor website.
I'm assuming it is. It's just too small to read.
It's really tiny. So, folks, if you want to buy one of these T-shirts before I fix it, so you can hold this over our heads, I would highly recommend it.
Robert, there's nothing wrong with the image and the website. They just don't have a XXXLL. They don't have it in giant size. So, if it was on me, it'd be perfect. But because it's on you, it's like, I'm David, you're Goliath. So
that's sizist.
Sorry,
what-
I don't mean to be giantess.
Sizes.
Sizes.
Yes.
Whatever-
Be careful how you
whatever
say
it
that
is.
stuff. Come out wrong.
It's okay, Robert. You and I are in a similar boat.
Mhm.
It takes about a boat to cover us. So.
Well,
This
Would
took
that make-
10,000 trees.
so is prejudice against you Buddhist or?
Never mind. I'm not going to say that. Not again. So, yes, folks, if you want to hop on Teespring, links are down in the description. And you can buy one of these shirts before I fix it and make it hopefully better. But it'll be gone forever once I do fix it. And please share with your friends. Hop on our Facebook page. Follow our Twitter account. You can comment on there what your thoughts are about Aaron's pitch stop. Be kind. We're
Be
sensitive.
honest, but be kind.
Yes, be honest.
Yeah, we don't read swears like they go over our heads. So if you swear, we won't understand.
We'll be awfully confused.
We'll start running into walls. And what? So don't do it.
Error, what was it? Error code 404.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, I ran
For
into
you.
error code 403 today. I thought that I didn't know that there were actually 404 separate error codes.
Yeah.
There is
Gosh, you
another.
learn something every day.
Right?
I got so close.
There are more. That's like your new achievement now. It's your goal is to get to 4 or to get just 001.
I felt like
I have found the first error code ever.
I
What
felt
was
like
that? It's a blue
like
screen.
Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. Just like when I saw error 403, I'm just like, no, there is another.
Don't you know,
stop
Jed?
me
200,000's wait for your error. Anyways, folks, yes, please. We are done. We are done doing other things. We want to do this. We want to give you content. So- Wait, say that again, Stefan. What you say?
He was saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. I'll
Oh.
tell you afterwards.
Yes.
Okay.
And type strawberry in the comments section and which episode it came in, if you haven't already.
Mm.
Boo.
And
Oh, actually, if you say strawberry in the comment section, tell us whether or not we should make a T-shirt of strawberries.
yes, because I have been thinking about drawing one, but you gotta let us know if you want a strawberry T-shirt
Mm.
with Robert as the strawberry.
Oh yes, yes. We cartoon his face in, and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking
and he's
like zoomed in all the way on the lips, like Anton Ego and Ratatouille when he's taking that bite.
And then Robert's face with
And he's
the
just like-
beard, just this hairy strawberry.
or we get that face from you when you saw Santa Claus as a kid, and you're just like, as you get consumed by your love.
You're-
On the bright
Love
side, Aaron,
your
it'll
lady.
make it a whole lot easier because I got a red beard.
Mm.
You'll blend it.
I'm gonna make it look orange.
It'll look like floating lips. And
Hairy
White
strawberry.
This is why you don't give these guys an inch because they'll take it to a new planet.
All right, then
With
stop giving
strawberries.
us inches. Let's sign off.
Let's sign off.
so it's really
All right,
important.
catch you guys next week for our next pitch stop, which will be, I think, all of us, right?
Will it be or no? That'll be
that's
in
right.
April. That'll be so.
That's right.
That'll be in the next month where we're done with the DCEU for now. Maybe we'll return to it. Maybe we won't. We'll see. But this next month we'll be working on adaptations
That's right.
of books.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
And
And I
so-
believe...
And so I'll be starting next week with an adaptation. Well, I won't ruin the surprise now. You'll find out then.
But
So,
if you have suggestions, please post them down in the comments, and I will carefully consider them, and then probably not choose any of them.
But he will actually consider it, which
But
is
I
more
will
than I'll
consider
say.
I will consider it.
Jed's just on it. He's like,
I
"This
mean,
is what want."
I already know what I'm going to do, so I'm not going to be like starting fresh already.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to be doing too. But yeah, so stay tuned next week for our new month of book adaptations. And Jed will be doing that. So we will catch you next video. Bye.
Bye.